You're right, guys. 25 of you guys now subscribed. Unbelievable. Thank you ever so much. And remember, you know what to do. Keep sharing and obviously keeping this channel alive because I enjoy talking about professional wrestling. Obviously, yes, you know for a while we start a new job on Monday. But obviously, I can only do uploads as and when I can. I don't know my schedule or my rota, what I've been classed as of yet. So I hope you can understand that. I hope to fit in more content for you guys here on Wrestling Fan Open Mic Night, because quite honestly I just love talking about professional wrestling, but talk about professional wrestling doesn't pay the bills, does it? Because at the end of the day my channel's still young and I'm not exactly qualified for a partnership deal as of yet, you know. But keep sharing, keep liking, keep subscribing. End of the day, you guys rock when it comes to it. But I just want to say currently SmackDown's on. All I can say is big whoop at the moment. I'll probably watch that and give you my thoughts and opinions sometime tomorrow. Now, I want to actually say this. I think what I've been hearing that Vince McMahon has filed to go in business once again with 14-1 trademarking. Whatever that means, and people thinking, oh, he's buying WWE back. No. I think this is a slimy way of him possibly buying TNA. You know, I've got a really good feeling he's going to be buying TNA and then they'll buy him out when he gets older, even though he's older as it is. But, you know, that's just my only opinion. I've been saying since the word go that probably TKO will buy him out. I just want to point one thing with this TKO deal. You know what would have been so much easier? You know, I know there's been a lot of reports that WWE's on the decline on the likes of Netflix. What you expect with the current product. But I felt like with the TKO situation that I thought at some point they'll do their own version of WWE Network, but they would have put all their networks, all their umbrellas they've got towards that on one network provider, you know, in-house towards TKO Network or something like that. Not rely on something that, what you would call it, that you could literally do on Netflix with that one. I think the UFC version of the WWE Network is still around. I could be wrong. I don't know. But I just want to say this, that I felt like they should have done their own version of it, because it would have been made so much more money for both companies. Because obviously if they're working together, you would think they'll merge into one network provider at some point. But no, obviously WWE's on Netflix, and this is still technically their first year on Netflix, and they're starting to literally fizzle. Unbelievable, a big company like that in the wrestling world being fizzling and looking elsewhere. You know, a lot of people finally caught on the bandwagon. I'm not going into the ticket situation. I've already talked about that numerous of times. But I feel like TKO should have made it more in-house with the brands they own in a whole. You know, the likes of UFC, the likes of WWE. I think Endeavour's doing the work, even with a working relationship, sort of. Move away from Impact Plus to TKO sort of thing if they do get them buy it out, or like the AAA sort of stuff should have been on that network, but it's not because it's going on to YouTube by the looks of it. Saturday Night Main Event should have gone through there. Obviously the back catalogues, you know, that would have been more interesting, more content for TKO to make it in a whole if you are that interested towards obviously what you've invested into buying into. So that would have been my take on that situation. Now obviously, yet again, Mariah May has been talked about by wrestling fans alike. Now, excuse my throat, allergies. That I want to actually talk about this because for numerous numerous of weeks now has been rumoured and speculated that she's going WWE. I just want to point this out. She's had more buzz than any other female right now on the wrestling radar. And that's including WWE fans. Now, I just want to say this. This is what I don't understand. How can someone that has watched WWE and not watched AEW but be hyped and do... I've seen videos about it on TikTok. I've seen videos about it on... here on YouTube saying they're hyped for her to join, but you've never seen her have a match. You've probably only heard of it, join the bandwagon, and it annoys the hell out of me that when you see WWE fans saying that AEW dropped the ball with her. How they dropped a ball with it? Because she was making turning heads with Toni Storm. One of the greatest long-builded storylines that AEW's done in recent years, and that's for women's wrestling, and they're elevating obviously what the after effects of that. Now going on to Mercedes Moné with obviously the likes of Toni Storm, parallel universes, and now colliding as one. But the thing is, what I'm saying to you guys is that it's really, really frustrated me hearing all the WWE fans hyping this up. And I'm like, I'm not being horrible about Mariah May. I know she's a talented wrestler, but what is she going to do with the women's division that is any different than what they've already got? This is not me disrespecting Mariah May at all. That I feel like when I look at the bigger entity of it all, I've said this for countless times, the women's division's in a mess at the moment. And adding more to that roster is a clear indication that there's no intrigue, if you want to say that. There's no structure to it. You've not even put in any focus towards the women's world title, this women's WWE title, the women's IC titles getting overshadowed by... Basically, that's being put in the spotlight because the politics situation, Becky's getting involved. Then you've got the US title that you're hardly using to a point other than making it a piece of jewellery. I've already done the facts about wrestling belts. They technically mean nothing at the moment in wrestling, but at least have some focus point towards your women's division. Then you look at the likes of Mariah May that's going to come in, and she's not going to do any different than what you've already got. It just bugs me that WWE fans and WWE gossip sites and so on like that have been sharing their opinion towards this, how great of an asset and all this lot, but you've not watched one episode of Dynamite, you claim. Because you don't watch AEW because it's crap, it's full of ex-WWE stars, etc, etc, etc. Or you want to complain about the pay-per-view being too long. You're just finding new ways to say that massive effects towards a woman that's leaving AEW, allegedly leaving. Until she pops on my TV screen, okay, then she's signed. That's how I see it. That's how I will always see it. I'm old school like that. I didn't want to believe the likes of Tommy End going back to WWE as Aleister Black when he was Malachi Black. I didn't want to believe... This is the one thing that makes me laugh. The reason why I say WWE fans are finding new ways to compare of saying, I don't watch that AEW because it's full of ex-WWE stars. You are ripping so many stars that made themselves a household name in AEW. The likes of Mariah May, Jade Cargill, Ricky Starks, who's now Ricky Saints, Ethan Page. Yes, I know he was in TNA before then, but even though these weren't some of these weren't used that often as much as you would think, but they were still from AEW, so it's perfectly fine for WWE to do that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about that, but the principle is, Mariah May, within the last month, has more hype than anyone that I have seen in recent times, which is quite shocking, right? To say that WWE don't know how to use the women correctly, to say you want a breath of fresh air and what Mariah May could do, don't get me wrong, there is some matches I wouldn't mind seeing the likes of facing Tiffany Stratton at some point, down the line or down the road, but people just gotta ease off a bit, all because she's been removed off the roster page of AEW's website. They could be just trolling WWE fans and dirt sheets, Anything's possible this day and age. Don't believe what you see straight away until it happens. The amount of times I've been disappointed that Manchester United have been linked with such and such to be signing for Manchester United and it never happens. That's how it works with professional wrestling. And with the likes of Mariah May getting so much hype, so much traction towards it, why is she literally posting on Instagram like AEW photos if she's literally done with the company? It's making no sense. You need to put the pieces together to make it feel sense. But at the moment, it's making no sense with all the people that are hyping up. Oh, she's coming, she's coming, she's coming. I'm not being funny. If you've not watched Element of Dynamite at all, how could you praise a woman that you've never seen? You claim you've never watched an episode of Dynamite. Are you just seeing the hype, what AEW fans have been talking about through the Toni Storm and Mariah May feud? It's bugging and frustrating the internet hype for this. It's just incredible to see that people are talking about it. Don't get me wrong, but ease up a bit. Calm down a bit. Wait till you see her come through that curtain. Then say, okay, she's signed. And it just... There's so much hype for her to join. There's so much hype for her. I can't believe how much hype we've seen over the past few months. And what can she add to the women's division that you haven't already got? Other than sass. But it just really confuses the hell out of me with the internet today. I do respect Mariah May massively. If she didn't have that, if the way people used to say AEW don't have long storylines, they're not that great and all this lot. But you hindered the product when she was in that storyline with Toni Storm. Now you're hyped because her coming to the company. It clearly tells me that you've watched AEW. You cannot defend yourself and say you haven't. This is where I sort of draw the line as a wrestling fan. This is like, I don't go like on a hype saying, oh, such and such. This is why I feel like WWE fans want to just hate on AEW. This is a new way of them doing it. And this is me being honest to you. Because you look how many former AEW stars. I've only mentioned a few. Another couple that I mentioned, Pentagon Jr., who's now Penta in WWE. Ray Phoenix, that's another one. Obviously, Cody Rhodes went back. CM Punk went back. How could you give someone so much hype if you claim you've never seen? It baffles me. It really does. I had to have my say on this. Don't get me wrong, she's good what she does, but what what is she going to do any different to what you've already got? You know, if she's repackaged, then you really think people are going to be happy about that? I don't think so. But, you know, and the one thing I didn't touch upon, obviously, with the events that basically when WWE actually putting events around AEW stuff, I've brushed upon it, but when I've gave it some thought, I'm still so against this idea. Not so against this idea. I don't mind competition, don't get me wrong, but there's one thing. The one thing that really frustrates me with the way this is done, it's been tiring when we've had to deal with Mania on 2 nights. It's going to be tiring when we're dealing with SummerSlam on 2 nights. And then when you literally are not doing events that are already planned for 2 nights, you're filling in the void when AEW does their pay-per-views. You know, you literally put in 3 events. It's going to be so tiring. It's going to burn out your wrestling fan base to the point where enough is enough. Unless you want to keep going, fair enough. But there'll be a time and a place where they've already started turning heads, looking elsewhere to other companies. Why do you think a lot of people have been reporting today? AEW smashed Monday Night Raw. That should be a turning point in your product. Turn around and go, oh, wait a minute, is that really happened? They've beaten Monday Night Raw. I'm just waiting for the tribalism to happen and say, oh, but such and such, such and such, such and such. You know? But it is what it is. We can't help it. End of the day, there's going to be more. As soon as I literally get off this video for you guys, I'll go on the feed on YouTube saying about Mariah May video saying, oh, how much they're looking forward to her. I'm just waiting for it.